children of God, loved and saved by Jesus. This is Pastor Paul Steinberg, and this, what you found, is the Christ for Disciplers podcast, where we take just 10 minutes every weekday, Monday through Friday, to disciple ourselves so we can better disciple the children that God has put into our lives. And so this is especially aimed at parents, grandparents, godparents, foster parents, teachers, coaches, Sunday school teachers, whoever has children that God has placed into your lives. So we focus on God's Word. And we are starting the season where it's school time, at least around here. School has started. So what we're doing now is we're going to follow a progression each week. We're kind of building in a school setting. Now, if you happen to be one of our listeners that has kids that go to the schools we serve in, the Hope Schools in Milwaukee, or if you're with Above the Clouds, this is the story we're on this week, and the story of creation. But for all of you, this also makes a nice curriculum where throughout this year, we're going to go through God's Old Testament, kind of a big overview. And close to Christmas, we're going to get to Jesus. Close to Easter, we're going to get to the resurrection. And then we're going to come back into general topics again. So it's kind of like a menu or a diet. And this year, we start with creation. We hit some foundational things. And then we also are going to spend time with Moses. And we are going to get to the Gospels. But this year, we're going to focus on the Gospel of Matthew. So if you want to get a little preview, look at the Gospel of Matthew. We'll get there when it gets close to Christmas. But today, we're focusing on creation. And I want you to think about the best thing you ever made, the best thing you ever invented. Maybe it was an idea. Maybe it was something you built. Maybe if you're a parent, you're thinking, well, it's my kids, right? But with all those things, can we really take that much credit for it? How much, innovation was there? How much uniqueness was there? How much effort did you really put in that others haven't? And how much did you already start with, right? The miracle of birth, that's like God. We humans that God uses in that process, we don't do much of the magic, right? Or when it comes to creating a painting, yeah, you made the painting, you got the picture, but what were you painting a picture of? Did you get that idea from what God had made? Was it an actual picture of something God made? Or was it really a unique look? But at least you borrowed the colors, right? You probably had someone else make the paint, maybe someone else make the canvas. How much do we really create? If you go to what we're talking about in Genesis 1, where it says God created, where really He called into existence, it's a little more than just making something, right? And maybe some of you are very creative, and you can think outside of the box. And maybe some of you are very good at taking other people's boxes and copying them, or making them just a little bit better. But God is the original one. And when you think about everything you see, your kids included, and the way family works, and this world that you see around us, it's all God. All God. So I'm going to read the first 5 verses of Genesis chapter 1 and just soak it in. It's kind of a poetic way. This is true. Don't take it when I say it's poetry that it's not true. It's a true poem, but it's just kind of told in an epic, gravitas sort of well-put, wordy style. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. God saw that the light was good, and He separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness He called night. And there was evening, and there was morning the first day. Oh, there's so much more here than 10 minutes can handle, right? So I just want to there's a lot you could take a look at. I want to pull out some of the things that apply to discipling the next generation. First of all, kids love to ask lots of questions. Where'd that come from? Where'd that come from? Or they like to ask what-if questions or why questions. When it comes to creation, when your kids get older, they'll ask, well, what if God hadn't made deer? Or what if God hadn't made Eve? What if, there's all kinds of what if, or why did God do it that way? And we're not going to get the answers. For the most part, specific answers to kids, but just say, great question. Oh man, I thought the same thing. It's true when we get to heaven, we can ask God, but there is an ultimate answer to every what if or why question. What if that's not the way it is? God guided things and saw it wouldn't be that way. He knew that it was better for it to be the way it is, because God always works everything out for good. That's Romans 8:28. And it's also the answer to all the why questions. Why this and that? I can't tell you specifically why this, or why butterflies look like this, or why humans are only this tall. I can't tell you that. But I know it's because God works everything out for the good of his children. It's everything to get us to be part of his family. That's why God made everything. Why did God make everything? Because he wanted a family. He wanted to have all eternity to be with humanity and the angels, to be together in harmony. That's the big why. So everything else God does is just fulfilling that why. We hit here, and it's 7 days, and it's a crazy thing. And kids will ask, well, why 7 days? Because it's what God did. It really sets up the week, and that's just phenomenal to me, that this world rolls in a 7-day week, when if you really believed in the foundation of the world being just luck or random evolution, there's no rhyme or reason. Every day is like just another spinning day, right? A year makes sense, right? A day makes sense, because that's set by, what, 7 days? Who set that up? God did. But God did it for order, right? And 7 is that number of completeness, that the world plus God, the world is 4 and God is 3, and you put that together and you get 7. It's for God to meet with his people. Light is what we see God make here, and that is phenomenal too. That's something you can study with your kids. I mean, what is light? Is it energy? Is it a particle? Well, kind of yes to both. It's this kind of photon, and scientific people can describe it, but it's this unique creation that we need for everything to work. And God invented it so that everything would work and we could see things and interact. If there was no light, I mean, it just wouldn't work. Nothing would go on. There's so many things in creation that are just right. I mean, you call that the Goldilocks theory, where everything is just right for humans to live. Now, scientists who don't believe in God say, wow, what an amazing accident or coincidence. But it's the anthropic principle, that it seems like everything was all leaning towards so humans could be here. Now, if you believe in the Bible, that's the way it is, right? Just like your house was kind of designed for your kids to come into. You got everything ready, you nested ahead of time. That's the way creation is. Even atheistic observers can see that, even if they think it's just random or lucky, or there's some hidden principle of nature that pushes that. But light is that way. Light is made for humanity. And it's just so special. And God invented everything, I believe, including light, because he knew he could use it as an analogy for himself. When God made light, he already knew he could say Jesus is the light of the world that would come to bring light and forgiveness and peace in the darkness that humanity brought into this world. Already he knew he'd use it as a powerful analogy, and to look at us and say, you are the light. Let your light shine. He set everything up so it's the perfect way to communicate the gospel. Because again, the big why for everything is so that we can be part of his family. So everything he does supports the gospel. One thing that kind of comes up with kids, especially as they get older, is, well, I thought doesn't everything look 13.8 billion years old? I mean, if you're up to different scientific observations and they find more and more stuff, I don't agree everything that he says, but Hugh Ross is one that really smart when it comes to astronomy, and he talks about all the things you can now see that really point to there being a beginning that is different than science used to point. But anyway, with all those things, boy, the universe seems to look 13.8 billion years old. And what do you do with that when your kids say, what about all this stuff? And, you can't give all the answers you might like, but it's no problem to say, I believe in Genesis 1 that God made the world in 7 days, as he said, and yet it appears to be, when you look at it, it has a parent age of 13.8 billion years. Is it any more miraculous for God to make the world in 7 days, and look only 7 days old? Or is it even crazier to think that God would have a backstory? Like the author of Harry Potter wrote Harry Potter, but she already had a backstory that has now become other movies, right? She had all that in her head, and that's the way you create things. If you're really creative, you have that amazing backstory. So it's no problem for me to believe the Bible is literally true, and that the world looks apparently 13.8 billion years old. I mean, Adam and Eve looked apparently 25 or something, even though they were on the first day. So no problem. Again, I would have if I was God, I'd made the world in a day or in an instant. I'd have snapped my fingers. Or, I mean, some people might think you'd do it in billions of years, but he did the craziest thing. 7 days, just like you'd think one God makes sense or many gods make sense, but the craziest thing is the Trinity. That's our amazing, glorious, unique, awesome God that is also that same God who had this whole plan. And even when creation, this perfect creation was fouled up, he still completed his mission by sending second person of the Trinity, Jesus, to save us. There's a lot here. Thanks for taking 600 seconds so Christ doesn't take second in your life or the life of the kids God's given you. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord look on you with favor and give you peace. Amen.